Jolene Carter wiped the sweat from her brow as she leaned over the hood of an old city ambulance. The summer heat made the engine sizzle, but she was too focused to notice. The ambulance had limped into Riverside Auto Garage with a loud knock, and steam rising from under the hood. She wasn't supposed to touch it. Orders from Gus, the garage manager. City vehicles are off limits. Too much legal liability, he'd warned. But when the paramedics stepped out, panicked and desperate, saying they were on standby for critical calls, Jolene couldn't ignore it. She saw the cracked fuel injector, the corroded brake line, and the clogged air filter. Her instincts kicked in. The engine could die any second under pressure, and someone's life could be at stake. She looked at the ambulance like it wasn't just a vehicle. It was a promise to someone lying on a stretcher that help was on the way. The paramedic, a woman named Sandra, caught Jolene's eye. "Please," she said, voice trembling. "We're already down 2 ambulances in the city. We can't afford to lose this one too." Jolene didn't hesitate. She grabbed her tools. She knew she'd get in trouble. Gus didn't tolerate bending the rules. But Jolene wasn't raised to ignore what needed fixing. Her father was a war veteran turned mechanic, a man who taught her not just how to repair engines, but how to listen to them. "Engines speak," he used to say. "You gotta hear when they're crying for help." As she worked, Jolene's fingers moved with purpose, tightening bolts, replacing the damaged injector, patching what she could. The job wasn't perfect, but it would run. 30 minutes later, the engine hummed like it had life again. The paramedics thanked her and sped off, sirens wailing. Jolene stood watching them disappear, her heart full of both pride and dread. Gus didn't wait. The moment Jolene walked back into the shop, he was standing with his arms folded, face red with rage. "You disobeyed me," he said flatly. "I told you, no city vehicles." Jolene tried to explain. The engine was about to seize. If they had left without the fix, someone could have died. Gus slammed his clipboard on the counter. "Not your call. That's what gets shops like ours sued. You're done here, Jolene." Her stomach sank. "You're firing me for saving a life?" His eyes narrowed. "I'm firing you for breaking protocol." No one in the garage said a word. Her co-workers glanced away. Even Darren, who once called her the best mechanic on the floor, just stared at the ground. Jolene bit her lip, holding back tears. "You know I did the right thing." Gus didn't flinch. "Then go be right somewhere else." She turned, numb, and began packing her red toolbox. Her hands shook. Outside, the air was thick and hot. Jolene loaded her tools into her beat-up pickup truck, eyes misting over. Her whole life, she had believed that doing the right thing meant something. Her father always said, integrity over income. She had lived by that, and now it left her jobless, discarded like a part no one wanted. She didn't even know who was in that ambulance. She didn't know that just 2 blocks away, inside the very ambulance she had fixed, paramedics were fighting to keep a man alive. His name was Christopher Vail, CEO of Vail Medical Systems, one of the most influential minds in healthcare innovation. The 48-year-old billionaire had suffered a sudden cardiac arrest in his downtown office. By the time the EMTs arrived, his pulse was faint. They rushed him into the repaired ambulance, not knowing they had just minutes before his heart would stop completely. The ambulance roared through the streets, weaving past traffic, its sirens screaming for space. Inside, Christopher Vail was unconscious, hooked to oxygen, his heart rate dipping. "We would have never made it in the other ambulance," the driver muttered. "We're lucky someone fixed this thing." But it wasn't luck. It was Jolene. Her quick repair work gave the engine the power to climb the downtown hills without stalling, and gave paramedics the stability to keep Vail's vitals alive long enough to reach the trauma center. Jolene had no idea. She sat alone in her truck, scrolling through job listings on her cracked phone, hoping to find a shop that wouldn't treat her like a liability. As the ambulance pulled up to the hospital, Christopher Vale's heart flatlined, but he was still conscious when they wheeled him in. That 10-minute difference had saved him. Time, borrowed from the hands of a mechanic no one respected. At the hospital, surgeons rushed Vale into emergency surgery. A clot had blocked a main artery, massive myocardial infarction. He survived, barely. As he recovered in the ICU, doctors spoke in hushed voices. If the ambulance had stalled, if there had been a delay, his assistant Claire sat at his bedside, her tablet blinking with missed calls and investor alerts. But Vale was quiet. In his fading memory, he remembered the sirens. He remembered the hum of an engine that had roared when it needed to. And in the weeks that followed as he returned to work, he would ask one question that no one could answer at first. Who fixed that ambulance? It wasn't a question of gratitude. It was obsession. That mechanic had saved him, and he intended to find her because sometimes the people who save you aren't in suits or hospitals. Sometimes they're in garages, covered in grease, being punished for doing what's right. 3 weeks had passed since Jolene's world fell apart. She had applied at 4 different garages. All 4 said the same thing. We don't take risks with city policy breakers. No one cared that she'd fixed the ambulance. They only saw a woman who disobeyed. Every night she stared at her toolbox, once her pride, now collecting dust in her cramped apartment. Her mum had tried to comfort her. You followed your heart, she'd said. But bills didn't care about hearts. Jolene started considering warehouse jobs, even grocery store stocking. Meanwhile, somewhere across town, Christopher Vale stood in front of a hospital board meeting. Fully recovered, he looked more energized than ever. We were 10 minutes from death, he told them. That engine ran like it had a second life. He paused, because someone gave it one. A week later, he instructed his assistant, Claire, I want every garage within 10 miles checked. I'm going to find her. Jolene was at a local job center when she got the call. Is this Jolene Carter? A woman asked. Yes. Mr. Christopher Vale would like to meet with you regarding a role in his emergency vehicle division. Jolene nearly dropped the phone. I think you have the wrong person. You fixed an ambulance 3 weeks ago. That ambulance saved Mr. Vale's life. Jolene's legs gave out. She sat down slowly. I didn't know he was the one inside. He knows, and he's requesting to meet you tomorrow morning. Transport will be sent. When the call ended, Jolene sat, motionless, her heart pounding. Someone had finally seen. Not as a rule breaker, but as a lifesaver. The next day, a luxury SUV picked her up. She rode in silence, staring out the window, wondering what a billionaire CEO wanted with a fired mechanic. When the doors opened at Vale Medical headquarters, she stepped out into a world she never imagined she'd be part of. The elevator doors opened to a rooftop garden overlooking the city skyline. Christopher Vale stood at the edge, hands folded, wearing a crisp black suit. He turned as Jolene approached, offering a gentle smile. You fixed an engine I was dying in, he said, and you got fired for it. Jolene nodded slowly. I didn't know who you were. I just heard the engine screaming. Christopher's eyes warmed. You didn't fix an engine. You gave me 10 minutes, and in those 10 minutes I made it long enough to meet my son again, hug my mother, and rethink everything. Jolene's throat tightened. I didn't do it for thanks. I did it because I couldn't stand the thought of that ambulance breaking down with someone inside. Christopher walked toward her. That's why I need you. I'm building a new arm of Vale Medical emergency response vehicles, built from the ground up. And I need someone to lead the mechanical operations. Jolene blinked. Lead? Me? You understand what it means to repair under pressure. You risked your career for people you didn't know. I need that kind of judgment. The job comes with training, a team, and full benefits. You won't be just a mechanic anymore. You'll be a director. Jolene's hands trembled. I I'm not qualified for that. He smiled. Neither was I when I started Vale Medical. She let out a shaky laugh, tears gathering in her eyes. I thought fixing that ambulance ruined my life. No, he said, it revealed who you are. That evening, Jolene signed the contract in the same hands that once held wrenches and oil rags. She walked out not just employed, but empowered. She went from grease-stained coveralls to executive planning meetings. But she never forgot where she started. She kept her old red toolbox in her new office, a reminder of the day everything changed. 6 months later, Vale Emergency Fleet launched its first line of upgraded ambulances, equipped with smart sensors, real-time engine diagnostics, and reinforced hybrid systems. At the launch event, Jolene took the stage in a tailored navy blue suit. Behind her was the prototype ambulance she helped design from scratch. She spoke with confidence, her voice firm but emotional. One decision, one moment can change a life. We build vehicles for those moments. The audience rose in applause. News outlets picked up the story of the mechanic who saved a billionaire. Social media lit up with hashtags like Jaj Jolene saved him and Shaj from Greece to greatness. But for Jolene, the real win wasn't the fame. It was seeing her work save lives every day, ambulances she helped design delivering people to safety. She finally understood her father's words. Engines speak, listen closely, and you might just hear someone's life calling for help. In her first month on the job, she hired 3 other mechanics, 2 of them women, who had been overlooked. Just like she had, one was a single mom, another was a veteran. She told them skill matters more than titles here. She built her team like a family, no one left behind, no talent wasted. And when asked how she knew what to do that day, in the garage, Jolene always answered the same way. I didn't know I was saving a CEO. I just knew someone needed help. That's what real mechanics do. Meanwhile, Gus, the old garage manager, watched her rise from afar, his shop barely breaking even, still bitter, still rigid with rules. He had fired a woman who broke the rules to save a life, and lost, someone irreplaceable. Jolene didn't seek revenge, she simply kept rising. Because when your integrity drives you, the road may be rough, but it always leads you home. And so the woman who was fired for doing the right thing became the woman responsible for saving thousands more by building machines that could never afford to fail again. The wrench she once held now sat in a glass frame on her desk. Underneath it, a plaque read, "For the 10 minutes that saved a life, for the mechanic who made them count."